Hey, it's Annika here with Sniffdog. If you are dying to get out of your house, but you simply can't because your dog is experiencing separation or isolation anxiety, this video is for you.
At Sniffdog, we're here to teach you how to speak dog. If you can have a better understanding of your dog, you can have a relationship built off trust and fun. We want to come on this wonderful journey of pet ownership with you to help empower the love and connection between you and your pup.
Real quick before we get started with today's video, as always, I want to give a loving shout out to Lilacs and Lavender. You are our new biggest fan. Thank you so much for messaging on every single video on YouTube. Seriously, it means a lot to me. I really appreciate the support. If you want to be a featured dog on our videos, make sure that you leave us some comments about what you want to learn more about and let us know if you are enjoying the videos. As always, don't forget to download the training tip sheet I made for you. You're going to need it with today's video. We've got a lot of details about a pretty hard topic at hand here today, and then stay to the end for bloopers. Okay, today is a doozy. I know firsthand how incredibly stressful it is to have a dog that you can't leave home alone. It is something that really impacts your work, your personal relationships, and your dog and your quality of life. So because separation anxiety is actually a really complex behavior to modify at times, it's not always, I've been a little hesitant to make this video. I never ever want a dog or a person to suffer because you're replacing these videos with actually getting in-person help. Separation anxiety is not something to mess around with. It is very distressing for a dog if they really have it. And so if you are dealing with a dog and you've tried all the things in the video and it's not working, you definitely need to hire the help of a behavior consultant for one-on-one homework with you. We will put a link of our favorite specialist that does international support over Zoom if you are in fact dealing with a more difficult case of separation anxiety. But first, what the hell is separation anxiety? Sometimes it's difficult to know whether your dog actually has it or not, and also the internet is loaded with information on what you can do to modify it. There is not just one way to do this. I'm going to give you the most straightforward tips that I can without going into the complexities of how to fix this problem, and just know it's not everything that you need to know in this one video. So just bear with me as I try to make this digestible for you and get you some results in the meantime. Most people don't know that separation anxiety is actually something very different than isolation anxiety. Separation anxiety implies when your dog is separated by a barrier, maybe it's a door, a gate, they're in their crate and they can't get to you, they're on a leash and they can't reach you, they're in a car and they can't get to you. Separation implies that they can see you or they know where you are but they can't access you, and so they're experiencing distress because of the separation. We use the word separation anxiety very loosely in society. Most people mean isolation anxiety when they say separation anxiety. Isolation anxiety is when your dog actually very much struggles to be left home alone or alone in a car without being able to see you. It's the isolation that's actually causing them the distress, not necessarily the separation from you. Now, most dogs that have isolation anxiety also have separation anxiety, where they don't like being forcibly separated from you. Now, to confuse you even more, there's one more word that we use that you might have heard before, which is called confinement anxiety. They usually go hand in hand with separation anxiety and isolation anxiety as well. Now, confinement anxiety is when your dog is not comfortable being left in a crate or in a room, but they are comfortable loose in the whole house. When you're trying to figure out which one does my dog have, you want to make sure, is my dog totally comfortable and fine left home alone in the house if he's loose? If he's in a crate or confined to a bedroom, if he's in complete distress, then your dog has confinement anxiety, likely. If your dog's totally fine napping in the crate with you home, but as soon as you leave, they panic, that's more a dog that has isolation anxiety, the ones that really struggle to be left home alone, whether loose or in a crate. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Moving forward, just for the ease of learning, I'm going to say separation anxiety, and what I mean is a dog that struggles to be left home alone, and I'm going to use your language because that's what the general public chooses to use when we're talking about isolation anxiety. Before we get to tip number one, we need to talk about what you need. Absolutely what you need to do these training tips is a doggy camera. You can refer back to our video we did on a review of which camera is our favorite, but you absolutely need a camera to do the tips that are suggested in today's video. You might need some treats, but otherwise it's just the camera. Okay, tip number one. How do I know if my dog does have separation anxiety? Real quick, I want you to understand you can't necessarily truly create separation anxiety in your dog. I mean, you can certainly make it worse, but usually it's already there, whether it's preconditioned because of genetics or because your dog has changed homes too often, or because your dog spent time in a shelter environment, or because your dog maybe flew to you when they were really young and they were in a crate and isolated and alone and scared. There's a whole bunch of reasons why it sort of develops, but most importantly, I always coach my clients, it's not you. You can't necessarily create this problem to become a problem. In fact, you could do everything right from the get-go, like I did with one of my dogs, and still end up with a dog that experiences severe distress when being left home alone. So take the pressure off yourselves if you are in a situation where you're feeling like maybe it's your fault. Just let that go because it's likely not the case. Another thing that's really important to note is some separation anxiety does in fact very much need to be treated with the help of a vet professional or a vet behaviorist. Now that means that your dog might be prescribed pharmaceutical intervention to be able to help them be comfortable being left alone. I also want to say there is no shame in having a dog that requires medication in order to be able to tolerate alone time. Separation anxiety is a trauma. It is very scary for some of these dogs that are suffering from it, and so to not cut corners is absolutely in your best interest. If your dog is currently exhibiting what you know to be severe separation anxiety, don't hesitate to chat with your vet around that or get a referral to a vet behaviorist where they can sort of allow you to get your dog treated before you implement a training protocol such as the ones I'm going to recommend today. Okay, and how do you know if your dog has separation anxiety and that you need to have a conversation with your vet or a local behavior consultant? So the first sign that your dog is experiencing stress when they're left alone is damage around doorways. So often windows and doors, there'll be chewed up areas around those exit points. Another reason that you would know your dog has separation anxiety is if they're vocal the entire time that you're gone. Basically, the more vocalization that occurs, the more stress your dog is experiencing. A lot of dogs will be vocal for the first 5 minutes, it'll taper off, and it'll resurrect again. Over the entire time that you're gone, the vocalizations will peak and fall and peak and fall. That's not a good sign. Your dog definitely shouldn't be whining for more than a few minutes once you've left and then whining again 5 minutes later. That is something that means you need help. Another thing to look for with separation anxiety is stress drooling. So if there's been lots of drool or the crate, if they are crated when they're home alone, is really wet, that means there's been stress panting and stress drooling, which is not fair to have to leave them in that situation to experience. If they're in a crate, you'll get biting at the bars and biting at the bottom corners and digging in corners to try to get out. That is not something we want to see. If the crate is broken when you get home, moved positions when you get home, these are all signs that your dog was experiencing some serious distress when you were not with them. Another example would be if there was a lot of destructive behavior that occurred when you were gone. So digging up plants, knocking things over, counter surfing and stealing things, chewing things up that they usually wouldn't chew up, seeking underwear and socks and chewing or swallowing that when they're not supervised, going to the bathroom. These are all signs that they were probably really quite stressed out when you were not home. However, sometimes dogs are just having a party when they're home alone if you're really bad at managing them. Meaning if you leave the garbage out and your dog's like,
oh, sweet, interesting smells. I'm gonna tear this bag apart and toss garbage all over the house.
You know, you have a stuffed down pillow on your couch and your dog destroys the pillow when you're not home. Sometimes that's just them having fun and making a puzzle for themselves because they're bored. So definitely you need a camera so that you can see, oh man, as soon as I left, my dog started erratic behavior, jumping up and pulling things down and looking out the window and barking and then chewing on a slipper and then peeing in the doorway, versus sleeping for an hour and then all of a sudden nibbling at a pillow and a feather comes out and then 15 feathers come out and then before you know it, there's a feather party all over your house. So if you have them on camera, you can be really objective. Are they stressed out? I can see their behavior. How long does it go on for? Is it just the first 5 minutes I'm gone and then they sleep for 4 hours? That's probably not separation or isolation anxiety. That's probably just a little bit of frustration, and that's okay and that's normal. But vocalization once you're gone longer than 5 or 10 minutes without them totally settling for the rest of the time that they're home alone is not good to see. If they settle for a few minutes and then resurrect and become vocal and destructive and then settle and then become destructive, that is separation anxiety that needs treatment for sure. Now, if you have them on camera, you can also be able to interrupt problem behavior if they're going to get in trouble, like eating a poisonous plant or doing something that's not good for them. So having a camera can definitely keep them safe if you do have to leave them home alone and you're not sure that they're totally comfortable with it. If you know your dog has separation anxiety, you're going to need a camera anyways for the treatment protocol we're going to go through in tip number 2 and number 3. So it might be time for you to make that investment. Okay, and why is a camera important other than just to know are they stressed or are they not? It's so key to know the amount of time that your dog is currently comfortable being home alone. Now, a good portion of you watching probably have a dog that's not comfortable home alone at all, and that's totally okay. This video is made for you. If you don't have them on camera and you're not sure, like, do they expire around half an hour? Do they expire at 45 minutes? It's so important that you come home before they have a panic attack. This is why separation anxiety treatment is so hard, is you can't just go to work. The more you expose them to the experience of being left home alone, the more anxious they become about that experience. It's not something that just goes away if we keep exposing them to the experience of being home alone. In fact, you're more likely to get a hypersensitivity develop if you know they're not comfortable and you keep pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. So rule number one of treating separation anxiety, know that they have it. And if you know that they have it, you cannot leave them home alone longer than their current tolerance. And for some dogs, that's 1 second flat where they are not comfortable. As soon as you leave the door, or even before you leave the door, they're not comfortable with the idea of being left home alone. So that might mean you need the help of babysitters, dog walkers, a calm daycare, the neighbors to help you, a partner that will support you and switch off duty. That is the part that makes treating this so stressful. I have been there twice. It's incredibly stressful. It can feel like you're never gonna get it fixed. You can fix it, it's almost always fixable, but it often really does need a huge community of people to support you along the way, both through the treatment protocols and through the support when you need to go to the grocery store or go out for dinner and have a little bit of a life of your own every now and again. Okay, with all of that being said, let's get to tip number 2 and treat these dogs so that you can get your life back. Tip number 2 is to desensitize them to departure cues. Dogs are very smart, and the more anxious they are, the more departure cues they're gonna pick up on. What that means is there's a certain number of things you do before you leave the house. That might mean putting shoes on, picking up car keys, putting a jacket on. And for some dogs, they even notice when you're brushing your teeth, blow drying your hair. All of these things mean your dog thinks when you do those things, you are going to leave. And that is what is called a departure cue. They've associated you doing this action of picking up the car keys with then you leaving. So when they see the car keys picked up, the anxiety begins. Now, the earlier on before you leave that the anxiety is starting, the worse it will be when you're gone. And so one of the most important things we do is we desensitize them to these departure cues, which means we make them think none of that means you're leaving necessarily. And this step can take you months. Don't rush this. Don't rush any of these recommendations. This issue is very difficult to modify, okay? When you're writing your list of departure cues, you want to write down everything your dog gets up, notices, and follows you around because of. Those are what are called departure cues. All right, once you have your list of them, you need to start spending 30 minutes a day. I know that sounds like a lot. 30 minutes a day, every single day of the week, doing those departure cues. All right, so you are going to pick up your keys, and then in between each departure cue, you're gonna leave about 30 seconds to a minute of you doing normal in-home activities. So I'd pick up the keys and I'd go do the dishes for a minute. I'd put the keys down, I'd go put my shoes on, and I'd sit on the couch for a minute or two. Once I'm done the minute or two on the couch, I'll put my jacket on and I'll go have a shower. When I come out of the shower, I might brush my teeth and then go stand in the kitchen and make a meal. So I'm gonna do all the things my dog thinks mean I'm leaving and do the opposite of leave. Do something homey and natural. Now, most of your dogs, if they're anxious, are gonna come running up to you like,
Oh my God, are you leaving? Please don't go, please don't go.
and they might get really needy, attention seeking. You might see some stress behaviors like panting, yawning, stretching, scratching, shaking off as if they're wet. They might just follow you around frantically breathing, thinking,
Shit, you're about to leave me.
when they start doing these things, when you're doing the desensitization to the cues, just ignore them. Play it super cool, like, hey buddy, yep, I put my shoes on, no big deal. Don't console them, don't pay a lot of emotional attention. It's just neutral, yeah, I'm gonna have a shower now with my jacket on. So you can ignore them, but also be kind. I don't mean ignore them totally, but don't make a big fuss if they're making a big fuss. Just play it cool. And so you're doing, picking up a departure cue, 30 seconds to 2 minutes or so of normal household duties. Repeat, 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 repeat for 30 minutes in a row. You wanna do this so often that you start picking up the keys on week 2 of doing this protocol, and they're like lying on the couch and they're like,
Oh God, he's doing that annoying thing again. I was gonna pick up the keys for half an hour. Now it's so boring. Keys mean nothing.
We want to see that they don't even respond to the departure cues. When they don't respond at all to the cues and they just keep doing their merry napping or chewing on a bully stick, then you're ready to move to tip number 3. Tip number 2 can take you months though, so please seriously don't rush this. It's really important that they don't care about any of the departure cues happening at all. They do not any longer associate you picking up the keys with you leaving before you move to the next step. And the last thing I'll say about tip number 2 is, so say you are leaving, you know, your partner's staying home with your dog or your friend is watching your dog and you're gonna go to the grocery store. Well, if you know that you're going to leave, you can't then do one of the departure cues that we've been trying to desensitize to, because now you've picked up the keys and left and they're like,
shit, the keys did mean they were leaving. All this time I really thought that it meant they weren't leaving.
So to really not complicate things too much, I'll just say, if you know you have to leave and your dog is home and they will witness that, you know, ideally someone is staying with them if they're not comfortable alone, then put the keys in your jacket pocket an hour before you leave. Put the shoes on and walk around for 20 minutes before you leave, so that you're not doing any of those departure cues right before you go. Oftentimes I'll have my shoes and jacket and keys outside the door waiting for me, and I'll give my dog a distraction like a Kong, and then I'll sneak out. I won't say goodbye or anything like that. I'll just sneak out while they're distracted. That way they don't notice any of the departure cues. Now, another frame of thought that a lot of trainers will recommend is that you give them a cue that means I'm leaving now and I'll be back soon. You can do that. For some dogs, that absolutely works. It's a consistent, consecutive, every time you leave, you come in, you say, I'll be right back, and then you go. That predictability can make a dog that's anxious feel really, really safe. And so don't underestimate how powerful that is. Try both. Try no warnings that you're leaving, or try to give them the tip off that you're leaving. And I'd recommend, if you are giving them the tip off, that you give them something food oriented to distract them as you exit the doorway. What you never want an anxious dog doing is following you to the door at the last minute, it shuts in their face, and then they're left on the other side of the door, stressed out about you having left them. Okay, congratulations, you're ready for tip number 3. Now, when you get to tip number 3, real life execution, you are going to be so excited, because if your dog no longer cares about you being near the door and picking things up and all those departure cues, then you're really getting much closer to being able to leave them home alone. So tip number 2 might be a huge chunk of your separation anxiety training. So don't feel bad if it takes you a while to get to tip number 3. Once you're here, we're gonna be excited about trying to normalize being left home alone. So tip number 3 means that we are going to start to add the doorway to the departure cues. We should never be touching the door in tip number 2, but once they're comfortable with all the other things, we're gonna add the door. So maybe you start walking towards the door, touching the knob, and then doing a minute of household duties, touching the door, opening it, closing it, go back to sitting on your couch and watching Netflix. A couple minutes later, go to the door, open and close it, go to the bathroom after. So you're adding the door as an additional step of difficulty for them to get desensitized to. Once your dog no longer stands up or notices that the door is opening and closing, that's when I would start to go out the door. So your 30 minutes of training will shift from doing departure cues to doing now departure sessions, where you're actually gonna go out the door for a split second and then come back in. Now, before we get into duration and how I know how long to be gone for and how I know when to return and all those things, I want to quickly mention most dogs with separation anxiety issues are much more comfortable loose in the whole house than they are in a crate or a confined room. You won't know that until you try on camera. Are they better in the crate, or are they safe and better loose? The older the dog, obviously the safer they are to be loose. If you have a puppy, I would absolutely stick with the crate. But some dogs will have confinement anxiety, so they'll be in the crate and stressed about it, and then double stressed because now you're not home and you're gone and you're out of sight. So you're sort of seeing a worse reaction than maybe you would have had if they were just loose in the house in the first place. So to clarify, tip number 2 is going to be that you add the doorway to the departure cues. And once they stop caring about you being near the door, you are going to go out it. Do not proceed into this step without a camera. You have to have a camera on them, whether they're in a crate or loose in the house. If they're loose in the house, the camera should be facing the doorway that you are going to exit and enter through, because that is where they're most likely to go hang out waiting for you. All right, so you are going to go out the door and come back in 100 times over with only being outside that door for 1 second. I promise you, if you take the time to hang out outside there for 1 second and not push it to 5 and not push it to 15, you do 1 second out the door, come back in on many, many, many repetitions for days and days and days, you will probably progress faster than if you rip the Band-Aid and you're like, well, he should be okay for a minute the first time they go out the door, you're more likely to see a resurrection of the anxiety, okay? We always return before they show us that they're stressed out. I repeat, we always return before they show us that they're stressed out. Stressed out behaviors include pacing, panting, staring and fixating at doorways, seeking out windows, vocalizing, digging at doorways, anything that really is more than just lying down and noticing. If they stand up and walk towards the door, come back in. I want them to be so chill about the fact that you're no longer in sight and you went out a door, that they're sleeping, they lift their head, they notice, they go back to resting. Maybe they're sitting and they're looking at the doorway from over here, but lying down and sitting and not getting up is sort of what you're looking for. So you're watching on your camera 30 minutes a day. You're gonna go in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out 100 times over until your dog is like,
For the love of God, stop going out the door. I'm trying to freaking nap.
that's the attitude we're trying to achieve. I want them to be so annoyed by you that they're like,
Just go already. Go and stay out. The door opening and closing is annoying me.
that is when you know you are ready to stay on the other side of the door for longer and longer periods. When your dog stops noticing that you went out in the first place, you can start hanging out, watching on camera on your phone. Oh, she's lying on the couch and she put her head back down when I went out. Okay, I'm gonna hang outside down the hallway, maybe at the end of the driveway, in the yard where they can't smell me or see me, but I'm close enough that I can return really fast if she gets off the couch. Oh, she's getting a little stirry. I've been out for 48 seconds. She's standing up. Okay, she's standing up. After standing up, she might have a panic attack at the door, so as soon as she stands up off the couch, I'm running to the front door and I'm coming in. When I come in, I'm neutral. Nothing happened. Hey, how's it going? And just walk on, do some household stuff, wash your hands, take your shoes off. Once they're calm, they're probably gonna shake off, relieved that you came in the house, and then you can do it again. And you can repeat that on very short intervals over half an hour if you would like to. Now, I'll recommend that you do your half hour of departure sessions every single day at the same time when your dog is tired and in a happy, calm mood, not hyper. Definitely don't do this before exercise. And don't do this if other people are home and there's lots of hustling and bustling going on. You need a predictable schedule, a routine. Anxious dogs like routine. Once they master being left home alone for 15 minutes with you hanging out in the yard, just waiting and seeing, are we at half an hour yet? Can they handle half an hour yet? The better. So just don't rush this process and make sure that you're doing this training on a schedule because it will really set them up for success. I just want to warn you guys, you might spend 6 to 12 to 18 weeks on tip number 3, just to get out the door for 10 minutes. Don't be defeated if that's the case, but if that is the case, you definitely need one-on-one local support and probably your vet to be involved. So don't put off asking for help elsewhere. Now, the whole point of this protocol is to be objective on your phone, noticing are they okay or are they not okay while you're still near the home. At no point have I recommended you go to a coffee shop, a grocery store, a movie, dinner, because if they panic and you don't come back right away, or if they panic and you even do come back right away, they still got into the panicked state when you weren't home, and it's gonna undo so much of your training. We can't let them get to that point where they're scared and anxious, because that will definitely make your matters worse and undo all the hard conditioning that you've done to make them feel like they are safe when they're left home alone. Now, I'll also add, if you're doing these departure sessions coming and going from a door, they can be in the crate for this, but you want to make sure you don't only put them in the crate for this. They should be going in the crate for meals and bully sticks and all kinds of happy things, so that the crate itself doesn't become a departure cue. And if they're loose in the house when you're doing this exercise, every time you come in from being outside the door, just like I said, play it cool, walk into the space, and don't have really big greetings whenever you come and go, because they don't need help feeling overexcited about your return. We want to make it as neutral and calm and casual as you possibly can. I know that's hard for you to have casual greetings. We love coming home to our dogs, but if you love coming home to your anxious dog, love them enough to play it cool. So if you've been at tip number 3 for a while, and let's say your dog is comfortable for about 20 minutes with you outside the home or down the hallway or in a lobby watching nearby, and they keep expiring around the same time and you're having a hard time pushing it, try to vary the length of time that you're gone. Don't always make it longer and longer and longer every session you do it. You can make them shorter, so maybe I'm gone for 2 minutes even though I know my dog is fine for 19. I'm gonna throw her off every now and again so she doesn't always associate my departures with getting harder and longer. If it takes you more than maybe 2 months to get to this point, again, please ask for help because it shouldn't be that hard to get you to about 20 minutes or so. In my personal experience with separation anxiety dogs, usually when you get to about the 15 to 20 minute mark that they're like, meh, whatever, night night, and they have a nap and they don't really care about you being gone, that very quickly turns into an hour. It means that you have to be really, really aware and on your camera all the time to make sure over the few months once you do get successful that you're not pushing too hard, too fast. Okay, things not to do. Do not leave them alone longer than they can currently tolerate, even if that means 1 second. I promise it will set your training back. Do not have over-the-top greetings coming and going all the time. Do not be erratic in your dog's schedule. Get a routine for exercise, feeding, training, etc. Anxious dogs love a routine. Do not punish them for doing things destructive or from a place of anxiety if you did leave them home alone longer than they could tolerate. That's on you and not them. And lastly, don't rush this process. Having a dog that is anxious left home alone is difficult for both you and them. So make sure that you bring your compassion to your training and be patient because this can take a little while. And please, please, please do not replace this video with one-on-one support if your dog has separation anxiety to the point that there's been doorway damage or you think they're in a lot of stress when they're left home alone. I hope you learned a lot. This has been a video you've all been asking for since we started making these videos. As you can see, it's not an easy task and there's a lot of details. So I hope that it helps you. Please let us know in the comments if you have any questions. We'll try our best to answer them. As always, don't forget to download the training tip sheet. I made it for you. You're going to need it with today's video. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, subscribe, and press the notify button so you find out when our next video comes out. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We've given lots of free tips there every single week with live Q&As. Don't forget to tell your friends about our videos. We have so many more good ones coming your way soon. I hope you enjoy the bloopers. Does have separation anxiety. There's hair on everything. Reason.